Good evening. On behalf of the commissioners and staff, I would like to welcome you to the April 23rd, 2024 City of Roseville Public Utilities Commission meeting. This 7-member commission is responsible for studying and advising the City Council regarding all utilities owned or operated by the city, including electric, water, wastewater, and solid waste. The Public Utilities Commission advises the City Council regarding planning, rates, public information, cable television franchises, and other matters relating to such enterprises, and may also hear citizen complaints as to operational rates. The Public Utilities Commission also advises the City Council regarding the activities of such joint powers agencies as the city may be a member of, or which relate to such utility enterprises. At this time, I would like to ask everyone, please put your electronic devices on silent. Please note that the agenda item 6.4 regarding the electric backbone mitigation fee has been dropped from tonight's agenda. This item will be heard at an upcoming, properly noticed Public Utilities Commission meeting date to be determined. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is roll call. Kara, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Bielski.
Here.
Commissioner DeLacy.
Here.
Commissioner DeMarkey.
Here.
Commissioner Knox.
Here.
Commissioner Maish.
Here.
Commissioner Springer.
Here.
And Chair Webb.
Here. Commissioner Springer, could you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 4 on tonight's agenda is public comments. This item is for anyone who would like to address the commission on any item that is not on tonight's agenda. When addressing the commission, please state your first and last name for the record. Not seeing any public comment, I'll move to the next item, which is approval of the minutes. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve our March 26, 2024 meeting minutes?
All approved.
Second.
I have a second, Einer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm abstaining.
Abstain. Abstain.
Commissioner Knox also. Next on the agenda is the requests and presentations. Our first presentation is from the Roseville Electric Utility for our monthly update. This report is by Chief Executive Officer Dan Beans, summarizing the monthly status of electric utilities activities for our information.
Thank you, and good evening, Chair Webb and Commissioners. At your seat, you will find copies of the Integrated Resource Plan, which was approved by Council in December, and also a copy of our revised strategic plan, which I will cover in a later presentation. So thank you for the opportunity to point out some highlights for the electric department over the past month. First, yesterday, we were notified we were successful in a grant request with the State of California DEBA program. I believe that's the Distributed Energy Backup Assets Program. This is a very significant milestone. It's a major step. We had to achieve this grant in order to meet our contractual obligations so we can eventually become owners of the state-built peak units that are out at Roseville Energy Park. So our team was headed up by Amber Blixt, who's our manager of legislative and regulatory affairs. And she had a team, but we also had a lot of crucial support from Mr. Joe Mandel. So thank you, Joe. Anyway, it was a great team effort. You know, it's $1.5 million, and it's definitely going to be a big asset for our community and our customers. So we're looking forward to continuing that process. In another item, Roseville Electric line personnel competed in the American Public Power Association Line Workers Rodeo in Lafayette, Louisiana. We were the only team in California, and I think west of the Mississippi, to actually bring home a trophy. Wow. Usually, you know, SMUD always does really well, and Turlock, and many other. We had a lot of great teams. But anyway, Roseville did get a trophy. And as you know, next year we are hosting the rodeo. So that's going to be a good time. The economic impact to our community from hosting it is estimated around $2 million. So that's really cool. The main event will be held Saturday, March 29th, 2025 at the grounds, and it's free to the public. So as we speak, one of our crews, group of crews is finishing up our second week of working on the Light Up Navajo project. This project provides multiple benefits, one of which is the overhead line work opportunity for our apprentice linemen. As Roseville is approaching 90% underground facilities, this project fills a need for them to get continued training. There are about 60,000 families in the Navajo Nation, and about 25% of them, 15,000 families, still do not have power or running water. This is our second year helping, and I can tell you the impact to our crews is second only to the families whose lives are changed forever. Imagine, for the first time, having a refrigerator, running water, and lights. When the crews return, we'll bring more pictures and videos and stories to you. SMUD always goes as well, and so we usually align our times out there with them, so they're a great partner. Our power plant staff and engineers have completed the spring outage at Roseville Energy Park, and the plant's back into normal operations, so great job, everyone. Our last residential smart meter was installed 4 months ahead of schedule, another great team effort. And then, as you see, we completed our strategic plan revision, which I will present later, and that's thanks very heavily to David Bradford, who picked up that project and ran it to the finish line. So thank you for your leadership, David. And finally, Roseville Electric's received some awards lately. As part of our culture and public service, we believe it's important to hold ourselves to the highest standards. One way is to measure ourselves against other utilities who are similar in size. So we applied for and received the top tier, Platinum, for the Reliable Public Power Provider, or RP3, with the American Public Power Association. This is a 3-year designation, and we'll roll out more information in the coming months. They just announced it earlier this month. We also received a gold award for safety when compared to similar utilities. So I'm going to stop there. There's a lot of accomplishments from our team. I don't want to make them blush, but they've done a great job. And with that, I will take any questions.
Looks like we don't have questions for you tonight. Thank you so much for your presentation. Next up is the Electric Strategic Plan Overview. Dan will continue doing this presentation for us, so please go ahead.
All right. Pull up the slides.
Oh, wait,
Thank you.
I forgot. Is there anyone
Right.
from the public who'd like to address Dan Bean or the commission on the monthly update? Not seeing any requests from the public. We can move on to item 6.2.
All right, thank you. Next slide, please. So you'll notice here, the path forward is our title, becoming the utility of 2035. So it's kind of a long horizon, but we developed this 12-year outlook because there are many state goals and mandates for renewable energy as well as electrification targets during that time. So we didn't want to set our sights too low. We wanted to have a horizon and a slope that was, meeting the challenge and the targets of the state. And secondly, we did something a little different this time. We solicited a broader array of input and consideration in developing the plan. So we had employees at all levels, commission and council members, community stakeholders, general public, and we also used industry experts, and all played a part in its development. Next slide. So we worked closely with our full leadership team to craft our revised vision and mission statements to ensure they succinctly describe our objectives. Our vision is Roseville Electric Utility is your trusted energy partner, prioritizing community values and dependable electric service. And we will achieve this through our mission we will serve and support our community by delivering exceptional reliability, customer service, or customer experience, and advocacy in a transforming industry. So our core values, these allow us to focus on who we are as a public utility and how we fit into the city organization and community as a whole. In our business, we must start with safety for our staff and the public. Public service sets us apart from profit-driven utilities as our owners are our customers. And inclusion means we value all of our employees and provide opportunities for their abilities to meaningfully impact our community. Next slide. The final two core values are collaboration, which we defined as engaging in collaborative and trustful teamwork that inspires innovation, openness, and honest communication, promoting a culture of excellence while working together to achieve a common goal. And innovation, focusing on the future by continually seeking new ways to embrace a changing industry through creativity, adaptability, and advancement of new technologies. Empowering a culture of forward-thinking industry engagement and unrestricted collaboration. Together, these values help remind us of who we are and how we approach the challenges that we face as we look in the future. So with a great deal of thoughtful deliberation, we organized our priorities and objectives into 5 strategic initiative categories. Financial strength, to ensure long-term financial stability and affordable energy. Advocacy, to proactively represent our customers' interests before our legislators and regulators. Customer relationship, to maintain quality relationships with our customers that instill trust and confidence in our utility. Our team, to develop and inspire a valued workforce. And reliability, to meet current and future energy requirements with diversified power sources. Next slide, thank you. Our employees' voices were critical in developing our strategic plan. I held several personal small group workshops with all levels of employees. It was during these meetings that we defined our core values. At the end of each meeting, I asked each employee to state in a word or phrase from where they sit what is the greatest challenge facing us as a utility. This word cloud represents their statements. And you'll notice that the larger font means the most hits as far as what people said. And not surprisingly, government mandates or energy policy in general, state and federal, are the biggest threat and the biggest challenge to our utility. We see that in our having to increase rates. We see it in all of our aspects. We are such a heavily regulated industry, and they see it, they feel it every day. We have staff dedicated to managing this, and it's a real issue. And so they were right on. So we developed our strategic initiatives to uphold our city council's priorities. And as a department of the city, our objectives directly contribute to and sustain these 5 council initiatives. Our next steps will develop tactics and business plans around the strategic initiatives, as well as key performance indicators to ensure that we're making progress toward these ends. As with any plan, there will be changes along the way, and we will review and revise the plan periodically as conditions change. So for an organization to be responsive and successful, it must be able to change as fast as the industry it serves. And starting with the reorganization last year, we will continue to pursue a dynamic organization and constantly watch for efficiencies and opportunities for exceptional service to our community. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Questions from the commission? Is there anyone here who would like to come forward to address the commission on this item? Not seeing any public comment. I want to say thank you for your presentation, Dan. Next up is a presentation and request for recommendation from the Roseville Electric Utility. This is about the Roseville solar buyback rate. This presentation is by the Electric Assistant Director Eric Campbell and the Electric Utility Finance Administrator Joanna Cucci with proposed adjustments to the Roseville solar buyback rate for our recommendation.
Good evening, Chair Webb, Commissioners. Eric Campbell, Roseville Electric. As you mentioned, we are going to present on our recommended or proposed solar buyback rate. Just a little bit of context before I hand it off to Joanna. We received quite a bit of feedback during the rate case outreach that we did the past couple months, both through social media and during the workshops with respect to when we're going to update this rate. It's something we had planned on doing, and so it's not entirely in response to those questions. It's just the right thing to do by our community. These folks have made these investments in their properties, whether it was a retrofit or new construction. And just to kind of give you an idea of like how much solar we have in the area, we have 50 megawatts of installed solar capacity. That's the same amount of capacity as one of those DWR units that Dan mentioned earlier. So it's pretty significant. It's growing, and it's going to be an important resource for us going forward. And then if you would, just go right to the rate slide.
Slide 4.
Slide. Right there. I want to back up, just one. So I just wanted to make a quick comment on our city council rate policies and how we view the solar buyback rate. We've really kind of wrapped ourselves around the fair and equitable policy to really identify the cost to serve our customers and making sure they're being reimbursed appropriately for the energy that they're pushing back onto the grid. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Joanna to walk you through the meat of the presentation.
Okay, so this next slide is just a reminder of where we sat as we presented the rate case that is currently at City Council. They've done first reading, and then second reading is the 1st of May. So looking at this, as a reminder, after these actions that were approved or recommended by the PUC, we're looking at being basically equivalent to SMUD or slightly cheaper, depending on the customer class. And as we always like to remind people, there is a $230 million savings that our customers see versus what they would pay as PG&E customers. The reason we put this in there is because this is kind of a continuation of this rate action. We did all of the rate changes related to the consumption of energy with that action, and then this action follows on with how much we pay our customers back when they export to the grid. So looking at the solar buyback rate proposal change, just some history on solar metering. California state law required utilities to adopt what we call NEM 1.0. And this required compensation of rooftop solar generation through net energy metering, which meant the meter ran forwards and backwards. And so that basically resulted in reimbursing customers at the full retail rate for energy they produced, whether they used it or they exported it to the grid. This often exceeded the actual value of the electricity that was returned to the utility. And we were required, well, all California utilities were required to maintain that NEM 1.0 rate until we reached 5% of the system load as installed solar. So we reached that 5% threshold starting in October of 2018, and we worked on the introduction of a Roseville Solar 2.0 program. The reason why we introduced a new program is that the NEM 1.0 program basically shifted the full cost or part of the cost of grid access and other expenses that we collect in the energy fee onto non-solar customers. And so by introducing the Roseville Solar 2.0 rate, we fixed that cost shift for people adopting solar after October of 2018. As part of that adoption, I believe we adopted in 2017, but we did grandfather existing net energy metering 1.0 customers onto their original rate for a minimum of 10 years or up to 20 years, so depending on when they installed their system. So this proposal does not change anything about the NEM 1.0 program. This is solely addressing the Roseville Solar 2.0 program. So the way Roseville Solar 2.0 metering works is that the meter on these homes have two registers, and each one of those registers runs in the opposite direction. So one is measuring energy moving into the house, and the other one is measuring energy leaving the house. So with the solar system, some of the energy that the solar system generates is generated and consumed in the house. And we don't see that energy at all on our meter. So that all happens within the house. It never crosses our meter. And then energy sold by the customer, so energy they generate and don't use in their house, is moved back to the grid, and we credit that energy at the proposed buyback rate. And then energy that the Roseville Electric delivers to the customer, we charge the standard retail rate for any energy delivered to a Roseville Solar 2.0 customer. Actually, any customer, but in this case, the Roseville Solar 2.0 customer. And there's a graphic kind of the way that functions. So looking at the calculation for the rate for the Roseville Solar 2.0, we're really looking at the cost of energy in the hours of solar generation. So this is kind of a generic look at when solar's generating. So solar generates more strongly, obviously, in the middle of the day and in the summer months. And so when we did this rate calculation, we weighted the price of energy in those hours where solar is generating, because we would need to buy different energy if we didn't have this energy. So we looked at the market in the hours of solar generation across the year to calculate the wholesale cost of power for this rate. So that's kind of the green area of this graphic, is where solar really generates for us. So looking at the Roseville Solar 2.0, so this is the current program as of right now. The rate is based on the wholesale cost of energy plus the avoided costs of system capacity, renewable energy, transmission, and line losses. So they're the pieces that lead into the calculation. The largest part is energy, but those other pieces provide a little bit of benefit to the utility, and so we do pay the customers for those benefits. As I said before, it was implemented in October of 2018, and it provided some fairness and equity in utility costs by implementing that buyback rate, and right now and at the time, it was 5.98 cents per kilowatt hour, and that was the value that the utility received from getting this energy locally from these customers. And we really want to make sure that we're reimbursing customers for what value they're providing. We want to make sure that that is an even trade. There is value in the energy that we receive from these customers. So moving on to the new proposal, we are recommending that we update the Roseville Solar 2.0 rate to account for changes in power supply since we adopted the Roseville Solar 2.0. As we've seen, there's been increases in power supply costs and other aspects of power generation. So as again, the current rate is 5.98 cents, and we are proposing a 16% increase to that rate at 6.91 cents. So a little less than a cent. Largely, this is being driven by wholesale power costs increasing since 2018. It is a number of years since that was adopted. And so based on our calculations, the current fair market value of solar moved back to the system is 6.91 cents per kWh. So again, the proposed rate would be a 16% increase from the initial Roseville Solar buyback rate. And if approved, this would go into effect on July 6th of 2024. Looking at the community outreach that we've done and the forward calendar on this, we did a virtual workshop on April 16th. We had a few people sign on to that workshop. We did hold an in-person workshop yesterday evening. We unfortunately didn't have any attendance at that, but we were ready and willing to answer any questions. Today, we're here at the Public Utilities Commission requesting a recommendation. And we do plan to go to City Council on May 15th and then a second reading on June 5th. And then 30 days is required after a second reading, and it would be effective July 6th.
Okay, so do any commissioners have questions for staff at this time?
Yes. So I'm 1.0. Do I stay at 1? I stay at 1.0.
Yeah, you will be grandfathered in either 20 years from your install date. And if you
still
installed
here.
before 2008, then it would be 2028. You would go out.
Got it. Okay. And then just kind of a sidebar question, because I get people that live up the hill ask me all the time, and I never know how to give a correct answer. Pioneer is really a discounted PG&E, and they're purchasing it through PG&E. It's nowhere near a
No.
standard.
It's just the generation component.
Right.
And really, it's what's being stripped out is the return that PG&E is earning on that.
Okay. And then last question. All this, news, internet stuff that solar energy is dead and it's the end of the world and, it's going to bankrupt all these solar contractors. That's really only talking about solar installations in PG&E world, right? Or no?
So the IOUs are going through a process at looking at how they reimburse solar, and it is a little different than ours, and they have to go through the CEC. In terms of it being dead, I haven't heard much about that. It's still a valuable resource based on our calculations and the value of solar during those hours. And a lot of solar is purchased by us, rooftop and, large-scale solar. So it really just depends.
That's fine.
You had a question?
Yeah, thanks. I have a hard time with this, so let me work on it here. So my background had to deal with the wholesale price of energy that PCWA was selling. And so my information is probably a little out of date, so correct me when I'm wrong here. But the duck curve, which would be nice, I think, if we had, so that we could see what I'm talking about, but we don't, right? In the middle of the day, there's so much solar generation that the market's flooded with generation. As a matter of fact, they were they were turning industrial, projects off in order to not cause grid instability. And prices were often negative in the middle of the day. I suspect that one of the reasons why we've had a rate increase is because of state policy regarding solar panels. We've gotten so much solar that the afternoon ramp up of trying to keep the grid from collapsing when all of the solar goes dark is the biggest challenge that the ISO's got right now, and that's when prices get really high. I suspect that because of state policy, every new house being built in California has solar on it now, that the value of solar generation on a rooftop has actually gone down, not up, since 2018. I don't understand why we're paying these people more for something that has almost no value.
So I will say that while there is a negative pricing on solar in some days and some months of the year, largely if you're looking over the entire year, that won't hold true. The spring and some parts of the fall, you tend to see some solar overgeneration, and there is curtailment of solar generation, especially the spring is really when you would see that happening. But if we're looking over the entire year and the value of solar in the middle of summer, when prices are never going to go negative in July, so we're looking at the price in all of the solar hours throughout the entire 365 days. And while there are some negative days in there, it doesn't average out to a negative, basically. And the market is higher enough since 2018 that even though maybe there's more negative days in solar, having to replace that generation with an external source, like if our customers weren't giving that to us and we needed to buy it elsewhere, it would cost us that $6, 6.91 cents.
Can I clarify that real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. So the duck curve, I agree that solar in the middle of the day is what's pushed that belly of that duck down, right? But there is no solar market. When we buy energy, it could be nuclear, it could be hydro, it could be anything. So energy prices in general during the middle of the day, because there's so much solar, are lower or negative. So when our customers provide their rooftop megawatt or kilowatt hour or whatever, that's the kilowatt hour we don't have to go buy. And the price is the price. It's not a solar price, it's a market price for energy. And the reason why the whole market has gone up so much, it's up 200%, I think, at least, maybe 300 on energy. It's because it's based on natural gas, because that's the primary source of what everything's based on in California. So that's gone up 200 or 300% over the last 5 years. Our rates have gone up 30%, but the solar buyback is only going up 16% over 5 years. So there is no solar market.
So, no, I understand there's no solar market, but $69 a megawatt hour, that's quite a bit of, what is our overall average, 365 days, 24 hours a day? Do we have any idea what our average cost of energy for all hours for a year is?
I don't have that number with me.
I don't have it exact, but it is close to 60, the last time I did see that
Close to
number.
60.
Yeah, and
And
so
this is
it's not,
69.
so this is not just energy, that's
Right.
the largest portion of it, but we also don't have to pay for transmission for this energy. We don't have the same loss percentage for this because it's all locally distributed. So it is largely energy related, but there are other factors that fill in additional.
And just to add on to Dan's comment earlier, we've had 3 rate actions before you in the last 5 years. I mean, since this rate was put in place, the majority of those increases were on the power supply side. So we've seen the broader power supply market increase dramatically.
I understand that our costs for energy have gone up, and
Also, in addition, on the curtailment question, they are seeing a lot more of that in Southern California than we've seen in Northern California. So the SP 15 and areas, they have had to curtail more there, but I don't think it's gone as negative as those news stories suggest in the Northern California balancing area.
So, I mean, I understand why customers who have solar panels would go, hey, the cost of energy's gone up, why aren't I getting more for the energy that I'm producing? And so, like I said, repeating myself, I believe that our costs have gone up precisely because of the problems being created by a surplus of solar in the system, evidenced by the fact that there's curtailment and negative pricing sometimes. But if you're telling me that if you look at our cost to buy energy during the hours demonstrated on this heat map, and that averages out to $69 a megawatt hour, that's,
Plus so energy plus the other factors that go into it. That is what it comes out to.
so, next question, how many dollars is this? In other words, the difference here between $59 and $69 a megawatt hour for, how much are you budgeting additional to pay our
150,000?
customers next year?
$150,000 a year.
How much?
$150,000 a year.
Overall, at the 7 cents, it's 1.1 million total.
0.1 million. All right, and, I mean, who's paying that is, well, no. All right.
So yeah, we
If
do
we're
celebrate,
not-
we sell that energy to other customers.
Yeah, I'm concerned that we're shifting costs to customers that don't have solar. And you're telling me we're not doing that.
Yeah, that was and is the goal of Roseville Solar 2.0 versus NEM 1, is that we do not want to shift costs from solar customers to non-solar customers. And when we originally adopted this, one of the concerns beyond the cost shift is that our lower income customers are the least likely to adopt solar, and we really wanted to make sure that we weren't shifting costs where we were stranding our lower cost customers without solar and taking on these costs. And that was one of the main arguments when we originally adopted this calculation and Roseville Solar 2.0.
So if we go back to NEM 1, you said it's 10 or 20 years, or 10 to 20 years. Could you give me
Yeah.
a little bit more information on when we'll be out from underneath this?
We adopted Roseville Solar 2.0 in October 18, and we wanted to give our customers that had invested before that date the full value of their investment, and they made those investments typically on a 20-year assumption. So if your system was installed before 2008, we said we'll give you 10 years from the adoption. So 2028 would be the first set of people rolling off the system. If your system was installed after 2008, then you have 20 years from your installation date before you roll off, and we max out at 2038. Everyone will be off the system, off NEM 1.
So everybody gets 20 years.
Yeah, the assumption was that they made an investment decision that was normally priced out over a 20-year payback period, and we were trying to make sure that we weren't messing up their investment decision that they made prior to that.
Well, the state mandated that we
did.
offer that rate.
Yes.
Don't take credit for volunteering for a bad idea.
Our concern was that they made an investment decision based on a current assumption that was going away.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions from, yeah?
So I was one of the few people that logged in for the virtual workshop, so I was prepared. I didn't have any questions at that time because I kind of thought it over. But how often are you expecting for this buyback rate to be adjusted in the future?
I think the hope would be to evaluate it when we do rate cases and see if it needs to be adjusted at that time. Prior to this, we hadn't seen a big adjustment in the things that led into this, but with this review on this rate action, since it was so large, it just really just put us over the edge of needing to reevaluate this rate. When we were doing 2%, that didn't really translate to anything on the cent basis when we were calculating this rate, but with this large rate action, it did push us to make a change to it. So we will evaluate it with rate cases and make sure that it's in line with the cost or the value of it that we're receiving. We always want to make sure that we're being fair with our customers. So we would evaluate it with rate cases and then make recommendations from that.
Okay. And I'm one of the last homes to go on the NEM 1.0, so it's nice to know that I will still have my rate until 2038, but, thank you for clarifying that for me.
Is there anyone else from the commission who would like to ask some questions of staff at this time? Not. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to address the commission or staff on this issue at this time? Not seeing any public comment. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding recommending that the city council approve the Roseville solar buyback rate proposal that we've been presented?
I just have a quick question for council. Since she and I are both NEM 1s, is it appropriate for us to, doesn't matter?
It's okay. It doesn't matter.
All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Would anyone like to propose that we recommend this to council?
Actually, I would prefer to have this brought back and to have something like this heat map that I'm calling it a heat map. Now I can't find it, but it's the one with all the, this one, yes, this. Yeah. With the average cost of energy during those periods and the duck curve and just go into it a little bit. Not that I don't believe staff, but it would be helpful for me if I could actually see it, the data behind the numbers.
Okay.
Because it just doesn't ring true with what I think I know about the electric market.
Okay.
Not that I'm an expert on the electric market anymore, but I would move that we ask staff to bring back additional information on how the recommended rate was actually calculated.
Joe, can you give me some advice?
Commissioner Maish is allowed to make that motion just to continue it to a future meeting. I'd like to just make a note for the record that the May 28th meeting is already going to be canceled due to a conflict in this room. And so if we bring it back to a future meeting, I was going to ask staff, is it safe to say that we could bring it back at the next Public Utilities Commission meeting? But I know that that would not be until potentially June 25th.
Yeah, and then it would push the effective date to probably August or September. September. It would push the effective date to September if City Council approves it, and so we'd miss the summer months.
So let me ask, Commissioner Maish has moved to postpone this for further discussion. Do I have a second? Not hearing a second. I don't believe we have a live motion. Is there anyone who would like to make a motion to recommend to the City Council that we approve the proposed Roseville solar buyback rate proposal? Commissioner
motion.
Knox? And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. We now take a roll call vote on this item. So Kara, would you please poll the commissioners on this motion?
Yes. Commissioner Bielski,
Aye.
Commissioner DeLacy,
Aye.
Commissioner DeMarkey,
Aye.
Commissioner Knox,
Aye.
Commissioner Maish,
No.
Commissioner Springer,
Aye.
Chair Webb.
Yes. The motion recommending approval of the Roseville solar buyback rate proposal passes. Thank you for your presentation, Eric and Joanna.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is the electric backbone mitigation fee. As we stated earlier, please note that agenda item 6.4 regarding the electric backbone mitigation fee has been dropped from tonight's agenda. This item will be heard at an upcoming properly noticed Public Utilities Commission meeting, date to be determined. Next up is item 6.5, Environmental Utilities Monthly Update. Tonight's presentation is a report from our wastewater utility manager, Brian Buchanan. He'll be summarizing the monthly status of environmental utilities activities for our information.
Good evening, Chair Webb and Commissioners. I'll start off with an update from our Business Services Group. We're starting to do some new fee update studies, including the Waste Services Impact Fee, which is kind of like it's almost a connection fee for waste services. We're starting a study to update the water connection fee, which is citywide. And then we're also updating the local wastewater connection fee, which is different than our regional wastewater connection fee in that it only looks at the local impact of capacity increases. The regional connection fee is done through the SBWA, the South Placer Wastewater Authority, so it's done by a different group, which the city participates in. Through the city participates in the authority. The next update is that the environmental utilities attended the Washington, D.C. capital-to-capital, cap-to-cap program in mid-April. They met with several congressional members, including Congressional Member Kiley, Barra, LaMalfa, Schiff, and Mitsui, as well as Padilla, Senators Padilla and Butler. They also met with a few agencies, including the federal EPA, the Bureau of Reclamation, and the Secretary of the Army, which oversees the Army Corps of Engineers. The topics they discussed were, I'll start with the one that is near and dear to me. They talked about PFAS. PFAS is a topic in every realm of water, wastewater, solid waste. You can't escape the discussion anymore. So I think that was a big topic of discussion in Washington, D.C., how that's going to be handled moving forward in all of the utilities, water, wastewater, and solid waste. They also discussed the healthy rivers and landscapes. They call I think that's the official name of the voluntary agreements. They discussed the river arc, which I think that was the Sac River diversion. Is that what that name used to be? I'm not a water guy, so that's what I remember it as. And then they also talked about the Sacramento Groundwater, Regional Groundwater Bank. The next item is that the Utility Education Center had a grand reopening on April 6th. Chair Webb was in attendance, as well as Mayor Howdeshell and Vice Mayor Bernasconi. This was basically the first rehab and replacement of the exhibits since the facility's been opened in 2008. So this was a big deal. And if any of you, other than Chair Webb, have visited it, it's great. It's an amazing transformation from, in the beginning in 2008, it was great. And it was this, cool thing. I took my kids there and this is just, it's more. It's a great place to visit. It's a great place for kids and adults. So, and then for wastewater, the only update I have, we're really busy in wastewater just from capital projects, both from rehab and capacity projects. The capacity projects funded through the SBWA. So we're really busy. We have over $100 million in capital projects on the books right now that we're managing at different states, whether it's in design, whether it's in construction. So it's a huge workload for staff. The city received an award from the California Water Environment Association. We were awarded the statewide collection system of the year, and this award, it recognizes the operational excellence of our collection system, not only the operations and maintenance, but the emergency response, how we manage all aspects of the collection system. And then the last update I have is, you'll notice the next item is there's 2 utility managers presenting the next item. So I retire in about a month, and our new utility manager, Tracy Mueller, she'll be presenting on the wastewater and recycled water updates, but she has been active in the role for, I think, a couple weeks. But you'll be seeing more of her for sure, less of me. But with that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Questions from council for Brian? Not seeing any
When
questions.
you said you're retiring?
What's that?
Did you say that you're retiring?
Retiring, yes.
Yes, when?
May 30th is my last day.
Well done.
So that'll be my 29th anniversary with the city.
Oh, God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow.
I'll never forget how when we went to that opening, I admire anybody can get up cold in front of a crowd and just do a presentation, and you were fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I never, I talked about, I was telling the story to the electric guys. I've been in this position for about 3 years, and the very first time, and within a month, I was asked to come speak to the Utility Commission, give a monthly update, and I hadn't spoke in front of council or PUC in probably 10 years. And at the time, the water side, I won't say who it was, gave me an update, and it was so confusing. And I was reading it, and I was on the mic, and I stumbled, and I started to curse. And I realized, I'm like, oh, the mic's on. And then I realized when the mic was on, my mind went blank, because I realized I almost cursed to the PUC on a hot mic. And, but yeah, no, it's easier as I got older.
Yeah.
So,
It's that way.
Congratulations.
thank you.
Congratulations.
Is there anyone else from the commission that has a question for Brian? Is there anyone from the public who'd like to come forward and address the commission on this item? Not seeing any public updates, so thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your next adventure.
Great career.
Item 6.6 is our environmental utilities, wastewater utility, and recycled water program update. Tonight's presentation is by our wastewater utility manager, Brian Buchanan, and our wastewater utility manager, Tracy Mueller, with an overview of the operations for our information. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm going to do a presentation on both our wastewater utility, which houses our recycled water also. So here's a picture of what the Dry Creek plant, which was our only plant back in 1970, looked like. Next time, I'll put a picture of what it looks like now once we get a drone picture. But it looks significantly different and has expanded quite a bit with the city progress. So the wastewater utility includes multiple divisions within it. We have a compliance division who helps us maintain, looking at our regulations that are upcoming, do reporting, and also houses our lab. And then we have the treatment, which is the operations of the 2 treatment plants that we maintain. We have the collection system, which maintains the pipes within the city. And then we have our recycled water system. And then we also house within the wastewater utility the entire EU maintenance. So they do maintenance both on wastewater and water. We have 2 regional wastewater treatment plants. We have the Dry Creek wastewater treatment plant and the Pleasant Grove wastewater treatment plant. We, in 2023, we treated 1.6 billion gallons of wastewater.
6.8.
6.8.
6.8, sorry. I meant 6. And 17.25 million gallons of waste was removed through the treatment process. Recycled water, we delivered a little over 1 billion gallons of water. And then for biosolids, we are now, that number should probably be about 20,000 tons of Class B biosolids. With the upgrade of the Pleasant Grove plant, we are actually now taking all of our biosolids to be beneficially used as a soil amendment. Before, the solids at Pleasant Grove were going to the landfill. So it's one of the benefits of the expansion project that we just recently completed. And then also, we are creating electricity at both plants now. We have been at Dry Creek for a while with an engine, but at Pleasant Grove, with the upgrade that we did, we are creating power with the microturbines. And we're creating about 20% of the plant load with the microturbines. So it's a little bit better than we had originally anticipated. The microturbines are powering the entire new project we put in, the energy recovery project, which is about 13% of the load. So an additional 7% going to the other portions of the plant. So it's been a really good investment for us. And then we are, of course, fueling a portion of the refuse fleet, the solid waste fleet, with RNG. So the gas produced from our digesters is going into the trucks after being treated. We only have 13 trucks right now because of supply chain issues. It's taking a long time to get the other trucks, but with the electrification fleet rule, we have ordered 40 new trucks at the end of last year in hopes to utilize our facility to its fullest. So we operate under a joint powers authority, the city with South Placer Municipal Utility District and Placer County SPWA. And then they help provide the funding for the treatment plant capacity improvements, so for new development. So projects like the recently finished Pleasant Grove expansion project are funded through SPWA, and we have a number of other projects that are funded. And the funding comes from the regional water, wastewater connection fees of all the agencies. The plants, both plants are owned and operated by the city of Roseville for beneficial use of all of the regional partners. The cost of operating, maintaining, and doing capital rehabilitation is funded through the regional partners' utility rates. And the way that that split is based on their contribution of flows into the plant. Wastewater collections, that's the group that Brian talked about getting the award. They collect and it collects and conveys wastewater from homes and businesses to the treatment plant. We have over 855 miles of sewer pipe within the city of Roseville. You can see that's roughly the distance from Disneyland to Disneyland and back, yeah. We have 12,500 sewer manholes, which require quite a bit of maintenance, actually. Next slide. Recycled water, we started deliveries in 1997 to Wood Creek Golf Course. We now serve over 224 connections, and we have about 3,500 acre feet that we provide annually. We provide recycled water both within the city and within the county. Recycled water is considered Title 22 disinfected, I got braces, it's hard to talk now, tertiary recycled water. Both of our treatment plants, both Pleasant Grove and Dry Creek, produce recycled water. At Dry Creek, we have to put 4 million gallons of recycled water back into the creek during the summertime when we're recycling, so we don't get to put it all into our system. But we have a combined capacity of 30 million gallons average dry weather flow, but we don't. Well, I'll explain a little bit later, but And that number is a little inflated there. It's at 6.8 billion gallons of wastewater treated in fiscal year '23, as I reported earlier. So our summer supply is 13 million gallons. So we don't utilize recycled water year-round in the city. It's really in the summer months, the hotter months. The golf courses are some of our biggest customers, and they only irrigate during certain parts of the year. So we only run the recycle system during the spring, summer, and part of the fall.
And some for the energy part.
And the energy park is our largest customer when they're operating, yeah. So our maintenance department, as I mentioned, they help maintain both wastewater treatment plants and the water treatment plant, 20 wastewater lift stations, 11 groundwater wells, 3 potable water tank sites, and 2 recycled water pump stations. So 4,900 total assets that they maintain. This has very little font. We maintain 2 labs. They're ELAP certified labs, and as I mentioned, they support compliance within the wastewater treatment plants, and they maintain their accreditation through the State Water Resources Control Board. We also have an industrial pretreatment program because we need to work with the industrial users and the commercial users. We have a whole program that permits and oversees those, and we'll probably be back soon to talk about that program because we plan to make some updates to that program here pretty soon. And then our treatment plants operate under an NPDES permit, so a National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit, which is issued by the Regional Water Quality Control Board. The recycled water system operates under a Master Reclamation permit, which is also issued by the Regional Water Quality Control Board. And collection system has its own permit as a waste discharge requirement, which is also administered by the Regional Water Quality Control Board. So we really have 3 different permits, all from the Regional Water Quality Control Board. So with that, actually 4, because both treatment plants have 2 different permits, so 4.
So does anyone on the commission have questions for staff at this time? Not seeing any questions. Does anybody from the public have questions for staff or the commission at this time? Not seeing any public comments. I want to thank you for your presentation tonight. Next on our agenda is the request for board members and staff reports. Are there any reports from staff? Any questions or comments from the commission?
Earlier, Dan gave that presentation about all the wonderful things that Roseville's been doing. So I don't know how we jointly say thank you. I mean, I'm very proud of our city and what the trophy, the Navajo Nation, on and on. So impressive.
Wow. Does anyone have it? So at this point, I'd like to request, are there any proposed future agenda items?
Do you want to follow up on your thing?
This time? I'd like to also remind the group here that our May meeting is canceled. There is a conflict, and we will not be meeting during May. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
So 6.4.